most exciting deck in our top 8, and the undefeated deck. So, creature base, 4 Thragtusk, 4 Angel of Serenity, 2 Gristlebrand. Those are his targets. So it's kind of a Thrag Frights package where Thragtusk is Finder, reanimates in a pinch, but probably more meant to be cast. He also has 3 Centaur healers. Just there as a stopgap measure, but kind of interesting. So a lot of come into play creatures that gain life, going to be very relevant against his Black-Green Zombies opponent.
Yeah, definitely. Also, looking at the spells, the first thing that jumps out in terms of the spells, 3 Lingering Souls.
Right, 3 Lingering Souls. Finally, we've seen that card in the top 8. But yeah, otherwise the Frights package: 4 Mulch, 4 Grisly Salvage, 4 Faithless Looting, 4 Unveil Rites. Chris is on the play. He has chosen, as the #1 seed, it will always be on the play. He's on a 7-card hand. Daniel Caskey is on a mulligan. So we see a turn 1 Blood Crypt from Chris Weidinger. He still has that amazing Frights mana base that we all know.
Oh yeah,
and
all the dual lands, 0 basics.
Rakdos Cackler will come from Caskey. Christopher pulls a die out of his own box to help out too.
That's really nice of him.
Very gentlemanly.
Friendly opponent. So he draws a Sun Petal Grove to go with his Blood Crypt. Perfect.
It's a Rootbound Crag. Yeah, Sun Petal Grove. Cool. Lots of all the hits.
Come for 2
drop
mana.
Rootbound Crag, and he will mulch.
Ooh, okay, that's the best play he could have right there.
Into Overgrown Tomb, Angel, Thragtusk, Angel. Wow. All right, targets are in the yard. Now all he needs to find is Unburial Rites.
Yeah, Faithless Looting would be great for him. It'll let him go something like turn 2 or turn 3 looting into Flashback Lingering Soul, something like that.
Yeah, worth noting, he does not. His Sun Petal Grove does not have a way to come into play untapped as
right.
So these turns really pivotal for Dan to shove as much damage as he can. And swings in with the Rakdos Cackler, drops Christopher Weidinger to 18 life. Looking for a follow-up play, he wants to make sure he keeps the pressure on here.
Yeah, he would love 2 1-drops, but he would settle for any creature at all.
Cavern of Souls come down, it's going to be naming Zombie. No counterspells in the matchup, but still a relevant name. Gets Diregraph Ghoul down. So now he has 4 power.
Right. 4 power, turn 2, exactly where he wants to be. It's probably his average draw. He'd love 6, but he'll settle for 2.
Chris is probably hoping for an untapped land off the mulch. He didn't find it. The question is whether or not he has one of his 3 Centaur healers. That card would be very strong right now. He doesn't. He's not able to play one, so he's just going to pass the turn here. He could have a Grisly Salvage possibly on end step.
Yep.
But Dan's going to get a turn to tee off. Chris does have an untapped 4th land. He has another Rootbound Crag, so he will be able to on 4. I don't know, he actually doesn't have any 4s, but he'll be able to keep saving an untapped land for when he needs it on a specific turn.
Yep, so Dan will chunk him, bring him down to 14, draws the Diregraph Ghoul that he, or plays the Diregraph Ghoul that he just drew.
Yeah. End step Grisly Salvage from Christopher Weidinger. Still no, okay, there is a land, 2 lands from Temple Garden and Overgrown Cemetery?
Woodland
Cemetery. It's a blue, all right, mixing the 2.
Yeah, he'll probably take the one that doesn't cost him any life.
News from across the bracket, Todd Anderson, remember, he's playing blue-white-red Miracles against the green-white aggro deck, exactly the matchup Todd wanted, but Todd is down a game. He got immediately curved out, didn't find his Wrath, he is down 1. You know, Todd, certainly one of we thought our favorites to make top 4, now gonna have to dig out of a hole.
Definitely.
4th land is Temple Garden. Chris will put that into play tapped, and he'll make Lingering Souls.
Those will certainly go into chump blocking mode next turn, depending on his hand. If it has an Unburial Rites, they'll probably just chump block. If he doesn't, they might trade with a Cackler or a Diregraph. So Dan Caskey untaps. His last 2 draws have been Diregraph Ghoul, it looks like. And here he goes looking for his 4th land. There it is.
Woodland Cemetery. So Dan Caskey, all his colors online now. Remember that he actually, no, he's not playing, yeah, he does play 4 Rancor, so now that Rancor can happen because it has a natural green source.
Right.
Black mana, it's going to Crippling Blight a token.
Yep, just knock it out of the way, make sure all his creatures are living this turn.
He's going to do it again. Rancor.
Oh, wow. So 8 power for Dan Caskey. Boom, sending him in.
Chris is going to have to go into, well, it depends what he has. Yeah, he's going to go into chump block mode, but still taking 6, drops to 8.
Yep, and he has to have an Unburial Rites here. He has to be able to reanimate that Angel.
Thragtusk could buy him another turn.
Yes.
And that the Crippling Blight's so good in Dan's deck. I'm really a fan. Lingering Soul's not going to help against the Rancor plan. So what is it?
Oh,
Chris
wow,
draws Unburial Rites. You know, this is where, of course, you smirk and pretend you had it all along. Angel of Serenity will get Unburial Rites. Now remember, if Chris's last card is an ultimate price, he will be able to blow this out.
Right.
And so Angel of Serenity, for those who haven't actually seen one, Angel of Serenity is essentially like an Oblivion Ring on a creature. It's like 3 Oblivion Rings on a creature.
Right. It can also hit the graveyard, but they go back to hand.
Right. So it will Oblivion Ring 3 things, but if he gets rid of the Angel, Dan Caskey's guys will not return to play. They will return to his hand.
Right.
We have to expect Chris here is going to get all 3 of the creatures.
Yeah, he might be thinking about taking the Rancor or something like that, but I don't see any reason to get fancy here. I just take the creatures.
Right.
He has another Angel in the graveyard ready for next
burial
turn.
rights. Yeah, the Angels are going to just keep showing up. I think because Dan Caskey's not playing red in his deck, this is exactly where Chris wants to be.
Yeah, for sure.
So he's going to exile a Thrag Tusk from his yard. I don't actually like that as much, but I guess he figures what can one zombie do?
Right, he's definitely hedging against the ultimate price. Now, if he gets ultimate price, he's not just dead.
So Thrag Tusk will return to his hand. So Angel holding on to Thrag Tusk, Rakdos Cackler, and Diagraph Ghoul.
Yeah, still not sure I like it too much because he has another Unburial Rites in reserve, but...
Depends what's in his hand,
right.
I suppose.
Right.
And he does actually still have more cards. Dan Caskey trying to puzzle out a way now to get these last 8 damage through. Christopher's game plan has panned out.
Yeah, I think Dan Caskey's plan is going to involve drawing a lot of Geralf's Messengers at this point. Perhaps Knight of Infamy, that'd be pretty good.
Right. Knight of Infamy, there we have it. It's relevant because it has protection from white.
Right. With the Exalted, that's a pretty quick
crippling
crippling
blight on the Angel. It can no longer block. Rancor's going to drop on the Diagraph Ghoul, and that's going to swing down to Christopher down to 3 life.
That's huge right now.
Christopher's going to need a Thrag Tusk will be enough. He can also Unburial Rights the other Angel of Serenity.
Yep, but still, pro-white.
Well, right. So the pro-white will be pretty relevant. He's going to need a Thrag Tusk.
Lingering Souls won't do it. Angel won't do it.
And if he doesn't have a Thrag Tusk in his hand, Christopher Weidinger is going to have to be kicking himself for having that Thrag Tusk being under the Angel.
For sure. Now, Chris Weidinger just drew a Grizzly Salvage, so he can salvage in the hopes of hitting a Thrag Tusk. As long as he hits one in the top 5, he can flashback on Burial Rights, get it into play. And I think that's his only play right here.
Yeah, Thrag Tusk is not in the graveyard.
So maybe an oversight by Chris Weidinger, but probably didn't think he had to play around the Knight of Infamy, of which there are only 2 in the deck, so I don't blame him for that right there. I think he made the mathematically correct play. It's just kind of backfired on him here.
Maybe. I don't know about that. Either way, he's got some options. He's going to have to salvage into some. He's going to have to salvage into land and a Thrag Tusk in the yard.
Yeah.
I think unless he has one in his hand.
No, I think his hand is 3 lands and the freshly drawn Grizzly Salvage.
Going to Unburial Rights. Oh no, and I don't.
Isn't he dead?
I think so. I think he's missing the pro-white.
Wow. So Chris Weidinger had an out in Grizzly Salvage, but choosing not to do it here. Maybe he has something in store for us.
Let's see. He could have Dreadbore.
Yeah, sorcery though.
Sorcery. He's passing the turn. I don't believe he has it.
Yeah, I think he's dead on board, unless we have the life totals wrong. I think all Dan Caskey has to do is turn that knight sideways. There's a Rancor for good measure, too.
Wow. All right, well, let's see if this plays out as we think it will.
Yeah, Dan Caskey really tanking here. Maybe we have the life totals wrong. But I don't think so. I think...
All right, he's going to swing. Oh, he has plays before attacks.
Oh,
Golgari Charm.
It's not a Grizzly Salvage. It's a Golgari
So he's
Charm.
holding on to it, hoping that Dan will try to rank.
I see.
It's a 1 of Golgari Charm in Chris Weidinger's deck.
Wow, what a draw by Chris Weidinger. He had all lands in hand. He drew the 1.
And with that in hand, that does make that the correct play.
Yeah, it does.
All right.
A mystery solved. Chris Weidinger does know how to play his deck. There's a reason he went 8-0-1 today.
Right. And Dan Caskey will pass back. This is going to be 2 swings from the Angels and a 3rd Angel in his hand.
He can hard guess that, I think.
Almost. They cost... Is it just 7 that they cost?
I think it's 7. He doesn't have triple white, though, so he can't hard guess it. Grizzly Salvage, Thrag Tusk, Yeah, Thragtusk will put this game out of reach. For Dan Caskey, easy Thragtusk. Bins the rest.
Land, and there we go. You're going to lock this one out of reach.
Yeah, this game is all but over here. Dan Caskey looks at the cards in his hand. Was so close, only a few life points away. Oh, it looks like Dan Caskey might have actually drawn an ultimate price here. Just a one turn too late.
Remember, they don't come into play, though. They come back to hand, which I think is the problem.
Right.
Yep, he has the ultimate price, but and he has to grab that angel, unfortunately, because the other one will bring a Thragtusk back into Weidinger's hand. So Caskey will get his own Diagraph Pool back. The problem is that this is a losing fight. There's no real, there's no real way for him to get back into it.
Yeah, for Dan Caskey to be back into this, he would have to draw another ultimate price, deal with 2 Thragtusks, and that's just pretty unreasonable to ask of him.
Right.
Especially with Chris Weidinger playing such a high-velocity deck like Frights, where 1 Faithless Looting or 1 Mulch just draws him so many cards effectively.
Draw by Dan Caskey.
1 mana. Here comes the Ghoul.
Shirt Diagraph Pool, back into play tapped. Another land. He's going to rancor it.
Sure. Doesn't do a heck of a lot. Chris Weidinger.
I mean, he does have some explosive things that he could do, Say, for example, Chris attacks and then Dan immediately drops 2 more rancors on his guy. that would get him.
That would do it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Chris Weidinger might have just drawn his last Thragtusk.
That'll put this totally out of reach.
Yeah, there it is. It's the Thragtusk number 3. Wow. 5 more life.
5 more life. Okay,
13.
Dan, okay, there we go. Yep.
Dan packs it in.
Nothing
He can't
else.
beat 2 Thragtusk, let alone 1. 1, let alone 2, rather.
All right, so up a game, Christopher Weidinger. All right. And Dan Caskey's going to have to dig himself out of a hole.
Yeah.
We'll see if he's going to be able to do it, but first we're going to bring you back into the studio here. We're going to have some trivia for you.
Yeah.
For those of you who've been faithful enough to watch us all day, and maybe this is your first Star City Open, as you may or may not know, we give away 3 months we give away different amounts of premium membership at StarCityGames.com at different points during the tournament. So during the top 8, we ask you a simple trivia question. Maybe if you've been watching today, it shouldn't be too hard for you. And simply tweet your answer with the hashtag SCG Premium.
Right.
It's not SCG Live, it's SCG Premium.
You can tweet at SCG Live, you can tweet at myself or Matthias.
But it won't count
exactly.
unless you put SCG
have to
Premium
have
on
that
it.
hashtag.
What we are asking you today is, if you've been following our tournament, which 2 invitational winners? Granted, there's only a very small handful of invitational winners at all.
Right. Star City Invitational.
Star City Invitational winners are in the top 8 of our current event.
How many and what are their names?
How many? Well, I kind of gave you away how many. I said there were 2, so 2 answers required. Both must be correct for you to get through. Both must be correct.
Exactly.
Which 2 invitational winners are currently in the top 8 of this?
No
Star City
partial
Open?
credit. Show your work.
We check spelling.
Exactly. Get that into us before this match is over, and you will be entered into the drawing for 3 free months of Star City Premium.
All right.
Pretty cool. Now, during the semifinals, we'll be giving 6 months away, and during the finals, if I'm not mistaken, is the Gen Con badge?
No.
It's the year
It's
of
the
Star
year of
City
Star City.
Premium. The year of
It
Star
was a
City
Gen Con
Premium.
badge, but then Gen Con happened.
Right. Well, there's
So,
next year's Gen Con.
All right. So going to sideboard, I still like Dan Caskey in this matchup. I still think his aggressive plan could pan out well against Chris. I'm not sold that Dan Caskey has the greatest of matchups here.
No, Glenn Jones was really arguing for it being in Dan Caskey's favor, and while I agree it probably was, once Chris Weidinger wins 1 game, it gets a lot tougher for him. That means Dan Caskey has to draw his Tormod scripts in both the next games, and in a black deck with no card draw and only 3 of the cards in the sideboard, that's a little dicey.
Right. So Dan Caskey, all right, if he can sideboard here, let's see if we can do it for him.
Okay.
All right, he has 3 Tormod scripts and 4 Duresses, and I want all of them right now if I was playing with him. And I know that is a lot of sideboarding.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the full 4 Duresses, because after the first few turns, Chris will already have cast his Faithless Looting, he'll already have cast his Mulch, and it's really not that impressive on the Unburial Rites, the Lingering Souls, the Faithless Looting. I think Duress might not be great here. I think he might want Victim of Night instead.
Let's talk about the cards he doesn't want. He doesn't want Deadweight.
Of course, definitely not.
That is dead weight in this matchup.
Wow.
All right. I think, other than that, Crippling Blight is okay. It's not as good as a straight kill spell because most of Dan, he would just as soon kill the creature Yeah, if we're looking, we have our sideboards here. So I think 3 Tormod scripts have to come in, and the 3 deadweights come out for those. Otherwise, if we look at cards in Dan Caskey's deck, things that aren't really carrying their weight, I think it's really just Crippling Blight, possibly Rancor, but Rancor's good.
Yeah, I also like actually keeping in some number of Crippling Blights just for the can't block clause. As we saw, Dan Caskey almost stole a game through that reanimated angel with the Crippling Blight.
So I think what he has to try to make sure he's doing is Rancor is great in matchups where they're playing a lot of removal for your cards because it turns every creature into this amazing threat. The thing is that Chris Weidinger isn't particularly removing any of Dan's things. I mean, when he does, he's doing it 3 at a time on the back of a 5/5. So that's maybe if you want to negate that removal, like a Rancor's not going to matter. A Victim of the Night might matter. So I'm going to advocate maybe cutting a couple Rancors in this matchup.
Okay. I can definitely see cutting one. I don't know about more than that. It's definitely great at punching through damage. What I don't really like, I don't know. I feel like he can lose some of his creatures. I'm not sure which ones, but he doesn't really need that critical mass. He really only needs like the first 3 creatures.
If he were to cut them, it would probably be Knight of Infamy.
Right.
That's easily the worst damage pusher in his deck.
Yeah, and he's not really banking on the Exalted. He's just, it did threaten some lethal that game because of the pro-white, but I don't think that's a normal game. I think that Chris Weidinger oftentimes is going to have, is often going to be able to deal with that.
On the other side of the board, Chris Weidinger, I think, will try to grab that extra Centaur healer for his deck. Outside of that, there's not too much I like in his deck in this matchup. I don't think Bonfire's okay, actually, because Dan's deck really is all X2. So the interesting card I think in his deck is Rock's Faithmender. Rock's Faithmender, the 1/5 for 4 that doubles life gain. Not really sure what matchup that's for. I mean, I guess the burn matchup. Like, if he plays against Joe Bernal's deck, that'll be great.
Well, in essence, the zombie matchup kind of is a burn matchup in the way that it plays out. They are really just trying to expend all their resources to kill you as soon as possible. I like the Faithmender in this matchup.
Sure.
I would definitely bring it in.
So let's talk about quick update. Remember, the winner of this match is going to be playing a Jund mid-range mirror between Ryan Forsberg and Lauren Nolan. Ryan Forsberg just won game 1. It's now up a game.
Yeah, and it looks like the players have finished sideboarding. Dan Caskey on the play
7s.
with the Isamaru.
I'm glad to see that our mulligans not continue too much in the top 8. Dan did go to 6, but I know we've seen a lot. So anyway, turn 1, Dan Caskey plays Rakdos Cackler. So he's got his 2 power on turn 1, exactly according to plan. Christopher just responding with tapped Blood Crypt. A swing from Cassie. Now, can he do it? If he can do 2 more 1-drops here, that's exactly what he needs.
Yeah, we'll see. I see a Crippling Blight in his hand, but can't tell anything else. This looks like a troll.
Lol
troll.
Neither of us can say this word.
Lol roll.
It's the troll. He's going to play the troll on turn 2. There you go. So he has 4 power threatening, and he has at least one spell to remove. I would like to see him get 1 more attacker down, but after that, I don't think he really needs too many more.
Right, exactly. This is just what I was talking about. He wants no creatures after turn 3, really. All his spells after turn 3, he would love to just have either kill spells or disruption spells.
Right. Because the 3 creatures is enough that he can. The reason is, 3 creatures is enough damage pushing that you can race the Unburial Rights package, and then so he needs to make sure that he has a faster clock. And once he gets 3 creatures, he does. And that's like his primary concern. After that, he just needs to then ensure that his clock works, and that's where Crippling Blight comes into play.
Right.
Christopher Weidinger is being very careful with his lands, making sure he's not taking any extraneous damage.
Right, exactly. I mean, Chris Weidinger, he doesn't really need to cast all his spells. He's really looking to just cast 1 spell in particular.
Right. Even if 2 lands coming into play tapped means he doesn't get to play, say, a Mulch in his hand ever. Say next turn's Lingering Souls, then Unburial Rights, something like that. And say by playing this land tapped, he is blanked on Unburial Rights in his hand, it's probably correct.
Exactly. That 2 life, as we saw last game, 2 or 3 life, that can be a huge difference.
Right. Diagraph Ghoul comes down for Dan Caskey. That's the 3rd creature. He leaves up a black. Caskey with just 2 cards left in hand. 3 cards. Centaur Healer will come down for Weidinger.
Very good card.
Back up to 9 to 17.
Now this is where Crippling Blight really shines, because Deadweight
would still, Crippling Blight. Remember, -1/-1, and more importantly, cannot block.
Right. So Christopher Weidinger, I see at least 1 Thrag Tusk in his hand, so
Dan's going to have to be careful.
That might actually be 2 Thrag Tusks. Just such a beating against the zombie deck.
That's always the backup plan of Frights, is just make
Slam
Thrag
the
Tusks.
fatty. Slam the fatty.
I mean, we'd hope is, Faithmender into a pair of Thrag Tusks to be like the dream here for him.
It used to be Wormcoil Engine, now it's Thrag Tusk.
Crippling Blight. Dan's going to go for it. All right. No blocks for the on the 3/3. Now he's debating. Yeah, I don't know. You have to swing it. Swings him down to 11. Once you make the Blight play, we have a plan. Let's stick to it.
Yeah, no blocking this game for Dan Caskey. Dan Caskey is attacking.
So Chris, we're down to 11. Dan Caskey making his 4th land drop. That's probably all the lands he will want in this matchup. It's another Cavern, and it's set to Zombie, I think, because I think we're going to get the Geralf is going to send a message.
Down to 9, the Team Fun member, 4 creatures on the board.
Yeah.
Just a great aggro draw this game.
All right, well, Chris Weidinger is going to have something. Chris Weidinger at 9, and Caskey threatens to swing for exactly 9 next turn.
Yeah,
so
he needs a Lingering Souls right now. He needs
something.
A Golgari Charm, something. Anything but a land go.
Right. What would be probably best for him would be Faithless Looting into Centaur.
Oh, yeah.
You know, 2 damage, because the creature can't block, so it might as well attack. Drops down to 18. Not a relevant number.
No, meaningless 2 damage there.
But
might
correct.
as well send it in.
Yeah.
If you're going to lose the game, at least get him under 20.
No flawless victory for you.
Why not, right?
All right. Full army form, and he's going to cast Oblivion Ring on Geralf's Messenger. Passes it back. The biggest thing about this is that Chris doesn't have too many plays that still win right now. So Dan will drop him down to 3 based on the board. Chris will start making Thrag Tusks, which can race, but really only races an empty hand.
Right.
So 6 damage, pushes Weidinger down to 3 life. He is on the ropes. Remember that Lotleth Troll can grow to, enough that Lotleth Troll is now a must-block creature.
Right.
It's probably unlikely that 6 will be, 3 damage life will be enough. So Centaur Healer swings. He's got his clock going. Dan Caskey now drops to 16, I believe.
Yep, 16 life. Chris Weidinger up to 8.
Back to 8. All right, Thragtusk. This card kind of the bane of a lot of the zombie strategies. Would you say?
Yeah, wow. Thragtusk is such a powerful creature. It only costs 1 green, 5 life immediately, and it leaves play too. It's not even to the graveyard.
Right.
Oh, the Blight.
And the Crippling Blight from Dan
The
Caskey.
back-breaking Blight, more like.
Doesn't win yet because Thragtusk really pulls weight here.
Yep.
But it's close to. You know now that Caskey does not have. Does he have 2 creatures?
Yeah,
1.
just looks like 1. Gonna drop Chris to 1.
So we do a second one. Wait for it. the great slow roll. Does he have another one? No. Chris drops down to 1. But he's going to cast that out of the graveyard now.
For sure.
Chris Weidinger drops to 1 life point.
Oh, cast. No,
Wow, he did not cast Gravecrawler out of the yard. That's certainly an oversight there. We'll see if it comes to get him. If Chris can drop another Thragtusk, that could be a decider. If he'd made that, then now he would be safe from Thragtusk. Because he didn't, he may actually another Thragtusk here will stabilize. Well, at least for a turn, will stabilize Chris Weidinger.
Yeah, just a momentary lapse by Dan Caskey. He discarded the Gravecrawler. I'm sure he knew when he discarded it he could play it.
Right, I'm sure he's done that trick once or twice this tournament.
Maybe. I hope so.
All right, swing for 6 by Chris Weidinger. And you have to remember, if Chris can stall with Thragtusks, Dan's at 10 right now.
Right.
These creatures that can't block can attack, and there's the Thragtusk. So Chris jumps back up to 6. Remember, if he had a Gravecrawler in play, this game would be over.
Yes,
but he does not. Overgrown Tomb into play tapped.
Dan Caskey needs to draw a removal spell here.
Another Crippling Blight, perhaps?
That would be great. Only 2 left in the deck.
And we have to watch out on the counter swing. Dan Caskey at 10. The counter swing is for 11.
Wow. And yeah,
I think he was about to turn himself and suddenly realized, wait, I am dead to the counter attack.
Yeah. Now, the thing about this, though, is that Chris Weidinger, no, he doesn't have to block the Lotleth Troll.
Well, if he suspects...
He should.
So if Dan swings with all his creatures, Christopher would have to block Lotleth Troll. Well, if one of Dan's 2 cards is a creature, he would have to block Lotleth Troll. Christopher knows that Dan's first card is not a creature. He would have killed it with him last turn. If Dan wants to run the Everybody Attack, which he's not, Dan's essentially saying he does not have a creature.
Exactly.
But if he I know you're somewhat of a poker player here. If Dan had immediately drawn his card and without hesitation sent in all 3 creatures.
Yeah, if you're Chris, I think you have to block the Troll.
Then you have to block the Troll because but by waiting this long, would you still block the Troll after Dan waited this long?
I don't know. That's tough. That's tough when you're not Chris Weidinger.
Right.
I think you have to be him in the moment there to figure that one out.
So he eats the Cackler, puts Weidinger down to 3. I don't see... And now he casts the Gravecrawler out of the yard. He sees that he's got to be hitting himself a bit. And And he's going to have to chump block here. So it's 7 mana from Chris Weidinger. An Angel of Serenity will get it for him.
Hardcast Angel. No, it looks like
if you hardcast Angel, would you exile? Let's see.
Grizzly Salvage. It looks like. Flip.
So a Bonfire, a Clifftop Retreat,
and
a Golgari
Chris
Charm,
Weidinger shaking
an
his head
Unburial
there.
Rites, and a Faithless Looting. So he's going to have to take the land.
Yep.
Clifftop Retreat is the only legal take.
So pretty big whiff there on that one, but he does at least get one
I think
land.
he's only playing into like Unburial Rites and a large creature, which that's unrealistic.
But something like a Lingering Souls would be a great hit right here.
Right.
Not even that.
Well, he can always flash back Faithless Looting with the attempt of leaving up a black 1.
Yes. I don't think he has a better play. I think his hand is all lands right now.
Really really an exciting matchup here. A lot of lines for both players to be considering. Chris probably has Dan on a 2-turn clock.
Oh, for sure.
The crippling. Well, it's interesting because he has to strike this balance between attacking and defending, but in some ways Dan has removed that calculation out of Chris's. He says there's some creatures that can't block, so they will be attacking. All right, and he's going to cast Mulch. Okay, that will dig deeper. All he needs is all he needs to find land, Angel.
Oh.
Gristlebrand.
Wow.
Has he made a land this turn?
I don't think he... I don't know. I'm not sure.
If he hasn't made a land this turn, he's got it. I think he has made a land.
Yeah, because he cast Thragtusk on 5, Thragtusk on 6, and now it's 7.
So that means he has no more... Does he have no more plays now?
No, he's out of plays. He can flash back a Faithless Looting, but that doesn't do anything right now.
Wow. And it looks like 2 and 2 Thragtusks just isn't enough.
Wow.
Just aren't enough.
After the failing to cast the Gravecrawler, it looks like Dan Caskey might pull this one out. So Chris Weidinger, not sure what he's thinking about. I think he just has to crash with his 2 crippled like creatures. Yeah, there he goes.
All right, swings them both in. Now he still is dead to... Well, no, because Dan doesn't have to block here.
No, he
and
doesn't.
shouldn't.
No,
I think he's giving Dan the opportunity to mistakenly block.
Exactly. Now Dan has to think about what cards Chris had in his sideboard. Can he afford to take this? And the answer is yes. There's no reach in Chris Weidinger's deck.
I think Chris Weidinger, I really like how he's playing this game, by the way. I think he's really...
Yeah, all his tanks
he's very
are really...
adept. Yeah, now if he has... He binned a Golgari Charm, and he does have a second one on the board, but... All right, 1 black, Duress.
Oh, Jig is up. All lands.
Jig is up, all lands.
There it is.
The team. All right, going to game 3.
Wow. So Dan Caskey, despite that little misplay
he was
there...
able to... But what I like about it, he's able to recoup correct. Next turn, he got the Gravecrawler down. He noticed it, and then was able to make the very solid play to get himself back into it and take the game that was rightfully his.
Right.
So 1-1, Chris Weidinger, Dan Caskey, going to game 3.
Yeah, now pressure's only going up here. Dan Caskey has to avoid anything like that happening again.
The event hall's gotten kind of hushed. Still plenty of players here, but almost all of them watching the main event.
Right. There are a few drafters, there are a few EDH players, but most of them just really loving the new standard with Return to Ravnica. Just such a great format now.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see Fright still showing a presence. And in a sense, why shouldn't it? Grizzly Salvage is such a strong card,
really good card,
especially in this kind of archetype.
Yeah, I really like that Chris Weidinger has sort of eschewed the 1-mana accelerants, because those were always the weakness of Frights. They could get gut shot, they could get killed really easily, and then, oops, your mana base falls apart.
It's kind of amusing, to me at least, because he has eschewed those, but at the same part, the things that preyed on mana creatures are largely gone.
Yeah, no gut shots anymore.
No gut shots, no mortar pods. Not everyone's bonfiring you.
Yeah, gut shot was just a kick in the birds for Bird and Llanowar Elf.
Yeah,
it was tough.
So we still have all 4 of our top 8 matches out. So we have Chris Weidinger, Dan Caskey going to game 3. Ryan Forsberg up a game on Lauren Nolan. On the other side, Dan Kaufman up a game on Todd Anderson, and then we have Zachary West and Joe Bernal. I'm sure we'll try to get you an update on them. That's a aggro mirror, so we may have a result for you.
Yeah, I'm sure they finished at least 1 game.
I hope
probably
so.
2.
If they haven't finished 1 game, I think Zach West is winning that game. Joe Bernal, remember, almost playing a burn deck today.
Right, with the Bump in the Nights, the Searing Spears, the
He's
Flames.
4 main deck Bump in the Nights.
Bump ya.
All right. Lauren Nolan in the John Muir, he has equalized against Ryan Forsberg, and they are going to Game 3. The winner of that match will be playing the winner of this match.
Yep. And I think from the long radio silence between the Todd Anderson and Dan Kaufman match, it's pretty safe to say that Todd is probably has the upper hand.
Well, it's green-white aggro versus
slow
miracles. I mean,
yeah.
What is it? I was talking to Todd and Brad about the deck they put together, and it's quite a compliment. I said, with Todd, Brad, and Jerry, I said, your deck to me feels like a Guillaume Wapo Tapa deck, and that every single spell in it is a card draw spell or a removal spell. And I said, and then Jerry stopped and quickly said, no, Wapo Tapa's deck would have 3 more card draw spells.
And 1 less win condition.
And 1 less win condition.
Yeah, of course. So Chris Weidinger will be on the play for Game 3. And, I don't think... I definitely like Chris Weidinger's chances here.
So
Dan Caskey yet to draw Tormod's Crypto.
We have been let known, because I feel like it should be known on air that Todd is looking to equalize Game 2, despite having just syncopated a Luxodon Smiter.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
So a favor out there, can't let that go unmentioned.
Excellent job, Todd. Excellent job. So, as the players shuffle up, who do you think has the advantage with Chris on the play?
Well, I've been really impressed at Chris's gameplay in this. Chris Weidinger, a relatively unknown name, but by all means, like a very solid player. I'm really impressed by his play, and I think there's a chance that Chris is, despite the fact this isn't a matchup he wouldn't want, I'm starting to feel like Chris may have just next leveled the metagame for this tournament, and I like Chris's chances to win. Yeah,
me too. I think if he can get past this matchup,
this is his worst matchup in the top 8.
Right.
And if he can beat this, he hasn't lost yet, and in such a new format, there's a chance that the reason is he got everyone.
Exactly. Now here's a duress. Oh, there is the Faith Mender.
So we're gonna see Centaur Healer, Faith Mender, Thrag. So it's 3 lands: Centaur Healer, Faith Mender, Thrag Tusk.
Wow, what a monster of a hand that is against the black-green zombie deck. Land, life gain creature, life gain creature, life gain creature.
Now do keep in mind that, and so all his other duels will come into play untapped. This is excellent.
Yeah, they will. Now, Chris Weidinger, depending on what Dan Caskey's turn 2 is, doesn't have to cast the healer on turn 3 either. He can just he can slow roll that healer if he wants the 3 extra life gain, but I'm guessing he'll cast it.
It depends what Dan does. I'm not sure I would do it. I actually might be greedy with it.
Yeah, I mean, if Dan Caskey just has like 1 2-power creature, then I think you cast it, or then I think you don't cast it.
Yeah, I mean, it does depend, I suppose. Yeah, Rakdos Cackler.
Yeah.
No, here's another one. So
wow. Now I really
another Rakdos Cackler.
I really don't like this. If I was Dan Caskey, I would have way rather seen the turn 1 Cackler rather than the turn 1 Duress. I think that's far superior.
Yeah, Faithless Looting's a great card in the Fright stack, but not that great.
Right.
So we're gonna have Centaur Healer comes down,
and with 2 2/2s out, that's definitely the right play. Not even close.
Comes to 23. Another note: in our final quarterfinal match, Joe Bernal is up a game. Has lost a game to Zach West. He's now going to have to fight for his life.
So Dan Caskey.
All right. We do have our first result for you. 2-1. Todd Anderson with his Tricolor Miracles deck defeats Dan Kaufman's green-white aggro deck, and Todd is the first player in the top 4.
Yep. Despite any syncopate shenanigans, he makes it. I'm sure the game was locked up or he wouldn't have done that.
Well, Todd's got a hope, so he's playing Tricolor Miracles, is that Joe Bernal and his black-red aggro deck does not win. And we saw that matchup earlier today. Brad described it as the worst match, one of the worst matchups he has played in a long time.
Right. Now, bringing you back to the match here, Dan Caskey, victim of Night of the Healer, bashed in for 4. Chris Weidinger countered with the Faith Mender.
So the interesting part about this play is that even though this situation is forcing Dan making really plays he wouldn't want to otherwise make.
Right.
This Faith Mender, you can't, he had to spend Victim of Night on a card that wasn't Faith Mender. And if Dan does not have a way to kill Faith Mender here, this is terrible news for Dan Caskey. The Faith Mender by itself can win the entire matchup.
Right.
Thragtusk gaining 10 is impossible.
Yeah, that would be just game over. Now, Dan Caskey has to have a kill spell for the Faith Mender, he has to have a kill spell for the Thragtusk, and then he still has to deal with the beast.
So if you only have 1 kill spell and you're Dan Caskey, do you spend it on the Centaur Healer? Because otherwise you're keeping 2 2/2s that can't block, and your opponent's at 23.
Right, that's so tough. Now, I don't know. It really depends on the rest of Dan Caskey's hand. If he had a creature to play, I would have way rather played that. But he's fighting an uphill battle.
He does have the victim, so he's still in this. Bashes Chris down to 15. If Chris doesn't hit the 5th land for his Thragtusk, Dan could run away with this.
Right.
Fourth land from Dan. Caskey down to 2 cards.
Oh,
The Miracle
there's the
Bonfire by
bonfire.
Chris Weidinger at a really opportune time will deal 3 damage to Dan, dropping Dan to 17, taking both his creatures with him. And Chris did have the land,
Yep,
for a good
and
note.
the bonfire means that the Temple Garden doesn't even have to pay 2 life to cast the Thragtusk.
So Thragtusk
next turn.
can gain 5 instead of 3.
Right.
Dan fighting back. Geralf's Messenger will shoot Chris Weidinger back down to 13.
13, yeah. This game quickly, though, becoming out of reach for Dan Caskey.
Yep.
Angel Serenity in Chris's hand, too, so 2 more lands. Oh,
Second Angel Serenity, that's probably too many.
Yes. Certainly one too many.
Too soon. Chris has a Faithless Looting in it.
Yeah, that's true, too.
So that he should be able to fix that without too much problem.
Yeah.
Chris goes back up to 18. This is exactly where he wants to be in the life gain
Yep.
situation.
And, that's the great thing about Thragtusk, too. It trades favorably with Geralf's Messenger. You gain 1 life, and you 1 for 1, which is, when facing a card like Messenger.
And a crippling
great.
blight draw from Dan Caskey couldn't be played faster. He's going to blight down the Thragtusk, swing with Geralf's Messenger, Chris back down to 15.
Yep, just when you thought the game was over, no, sir. Crippling
Swings
blight.
back and forth. Now, to be fair, racing-wise, Thragtusk will be a fine man at racing here.
Yeah. As it is, Chris might win this race.
Chris's draw, I believe, a Centaur Healer.
Great draw right now.
Right. So, well, I think you Faithless Looting first and hope you hit the land.
Definitely.
So Dan drops down to 13.
Wow, okay.
He just disagrees. Chris
Taking the
Weidinger
conservative route.
back up to 18. I don't know. I would have liked to see Faithless Looting.
I'm a greedy guy, so yeah, I think so too. Chris Weidinger, though, didn't think about it too much. Slammed down the healer. Just knows that if he can just stall that Geralf's Messenger for enough time, the Thragtusk will actually do enough damage to force Dan Caskey to block, giving him a 3/3, giving him tons more time.
Dan has to hope that he's not forced to block here. Interestingly enough, if Dan swings Geralf's Messenger and I'm Chris, I think I'd opt to race.
Wow.
I know it's a bolder strategy, but let's see.
Yeah,
and Chris
takes
knows it.
Instantly takes it.
Because Dan really can't afford to race here. How interesting. So now the Fright Slayer has switched. He's accidentally switched roles and Lotleth Troll. Yeah. And Lotleth Troll could. Okay, so now he can block the Thragtusk now if he wants to.
Right.
It's not as horrible as it looked before.
So Chris Weidinger will untap, likely flash back the Faithless Looting.
Great game here. We have.
Yeah, this is way closer than I thought it was going to be.
Chris Weidinger, all he needs to do is live until his 7th land.
Yes. And with Faithless Looting in the graveyard, that means that should come in 2 turns. Well, could come in 2 turns.
3 mana for Weidinger. Let's see. Yep, he's in a flashback Faithless Looting, leaving up red, white, green, white.
Yep. Has no black sources yet.
No, draws 2 cards, and they are
Land Rolling
Temblor.
Angel Rolling Temblor, probably going to go to the bin here.
Maybe, yeah, he wants to keep 1 Angel, probably. So he has Angel, Rolling Temblor, a land, and then his last card is...
Not sure what the last card is. It's a white card.
It's a white card. It might be a third Angel.
Mender?
Could be a third Angel.
Could be a third Angel. Could be a Faith Mender. Could be a Lingering Souls.
If it's Lingering Souls, he wouldn't be waiting this long.
Right, that's true too. Oh, it could be an Oblivion Ring.
So, to the bin, it's evading here. Really close play. It's going to be the Rolling Temblor.
Definitely the Rolling Temblor.
The Rolling Temblor is an interesting option. It does kill the Geralf's Messenger. It also gives him a 3/3 where the Thragtusk is. It's not really how he wants to spend the Thragtusk, but...
Right, but if he needs to block, he needs to block, so...
Right.
Chris Weidinger, very methodical. I like how he's playing here. I haven't disagreed with too many of his decisions.
Really impressed with him today. All right, Lotleth Troll, blocking the Thragtusk, and regenerating.
Yep. So 3/3.
Chris wants a blocker.
Yes.
And I think this is a situation where Lotleth Troll really shines.
Yeah, it's like most of the creatures in the zombie deck are really pretty weak late game, but Lotleth Troll and Geralf's Messenger are 2 of the few that aren't.
So some Sun Petal Grove into play for Weidinger. He does not have his 7th land. He does have an Angel of Serenity. That last card is still unknown right now.
I really can't tell what that white card is there. I think it might be a Faith Mender.
Yeah, I can't tell. Options for the white card would be Faith Mender and Oblivion Ring. Probably not the Ray of Revelation.
Probably not.
So a swing by Geralf's Messenger. It's going to trade with the Centaur Healer.
Yep.
It's going to come back. Chris Weidinger drops down to 13. Still at a healthy enough life total. I think he has enough turns to find that Angel.
I think so too. Life total's 13 apiece.
What he has to watch out for though is Doomblade. or sorry, Ultimate Price.
Right.
Ultimate Price brings the undying Geralt's Messenger back into his hand.
So Cavern will name Zombie, and this might be another
I think
messenger.
it's another messenger.
Ooh,
Another
wow.
one. So Chris can make the Angel, but he's got to hope there's not an Ultimate Price waiting in Caskey's hand for him. That would be...
That'd be brutal.
That'd be game ending.
Caskey only has one card in hand, I think.
He has two.
Two cards?
No, Dan has... Sorry, you're right.
Ooh,
and there's the
Clifftop
7th
Retreat
land. It's Clifftop
slams it
Retreat.
into play, and here comes the Angel. Dan Caskey knows what's here. Interesting. He just looked at his hand when Chris was about to tap 7. Do you think he has it?
I think he has it.
I think so, too.
That's the tell I get off that, is I think he has it.
Wow.
He
looks again.
He looks again, yeah. He has it. Can Chris play around it?
Wow. Now, Chris will definitely get back Thrag Tusk.
Get back Thrag Tusk in the yard and both messengers.
Yes,
the
for
Thrag
sure.
Tusk, a great, once again, really impressed with Chris. Many people go for the greedy play of taking all 3 of Dan Caskey's cards.
Yeah,
Chris knows better.
That's definitely wrong. Yeah. I like Chris's play a lot. He's not just dead if Dan has a kill spell.
So okay, if you put Dan on the kill spell, no, there's no reason to swing. And Dan actually doesn't. Okay, so maybe Dan doesn't have it. Maybe our read's off.
Huh.
What would you say? Would you say based off? You think? I mean, he clearly doesn't have it now.
Right, definitely not. He would have cast it. Maybe he's looking at his hand because of Crippling Blight. That could be it. I don't know why he would look like that if he didn't have a way to interact with it. No, it's definitely not a land. He wouldn't look like that if it was a land. Yeah, interesting. Dan Caskey drawn 0 Tormod's Crypts in 2 sideboard games.
Right, well, turns out, I mean, this game, it would have gotten nothing. Well, it would have gotten the Thrag Tusk and the Faithless Looting.
Right.
Thrag Tusk probably won't matter if he can't deal with the Angel.
Right.
Caskey's going to need a Victim of the Night or a Victim of Night or the Ultimate Price. Chris Weidinger 3 swings away from winning and keep making his way into the top 4. The winner of this will be playing a Jund mid-range deck. The Jund mid-range players have got to be cheering for Dan Caskey to win this.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
The aggro deck, something that they're built to prey upon.
Wow, Unburial Rights
on another
Angel
well,
game.
He was due for one.
Yeah, he was due. And now, 13 power versus Dan Caskey's
under
0 power.
Swings 8. Dan Caskey's going to drop to 5. I think we're going to see a concession here.
Yep. So this is a miracle.
Miracle, 3 more lands.
Wow.
All right. Christopher Weidinger continues the undefeated streak, moves into the top 4, defeating Dan Caskey 2-1.
Great game, great match. Congratulations, Chris Weidinger.
Top seed, still our player without a loss, moving his way with his own Frights deck into the top 4 of the tournament.
Yeah, if he wins the tournament, I can't wait to ask him. Is this his own brew?
Yeah.
Did he work with someone on this? Because this is unlike any Frights deck I've ever seen. This is so strange.
It's a great deck. We'll hope to learn more about him. I don't know him, probably a local player, but really impressed with his deck. Really impressed with his playing.
Yeah. There's no way you settle on 3 Centaur Healer, 1 Rolling Templar, 1 Golgari Charm by accident. I know that much.
Yeah.
So there you see him on the right, Chris Weidinger, Dan